I always thought my life was solid, predictable in the best way. I had a beautiful wife, Lily, who was my biggest cheerleader, or so I thought, and a thriving career as an architect. It wasn't a glamorous life, but it was ours. Every morning, I'd wake up in our little brick house, Lily humming in the kitchen, always saying she was helping me build my empire. For a while, I believed her. Work was consuming me, especially this past year. I'd landed a career-defining project, designing the city's largest museum. It wasn't just another contract, it was my passion project. Lily had seemed as excited as I was, poring over blueprints with me late into the night. She'd call herself my second architect, though her feedback was more about wine pairings for the opening gala than load-bearing structures. Still, her support felt genuine. At least it did until the changes started. It was small at first, Lily brushing off dinner plans with vague excuses. She'd stay out late with friends, coming home with a faint smell of perfume that wasn't hers. When I mentioned it, she laughed and waved me off, saying I was being silly. But the lies didn't stop there. Her phone, once left casually on the counter, was now glued to her hand, its screen always tilted away. Her charm felt rehearsed, her affection distant, like an actress going through her lines. I tried to shake it off. Maybe it was just stress. My hours were brutal, and Lily had always thrived on attention. Maybe she was feeling neglected. I even suggested we take a weekend away to reconnect, but she shot the idea down. "Jason," she said, with that exasperated tone that made me feel like a child, "you're knee-deep in deadlines. How can we leave now?" I agreed, but the unease stuck with me. I didn't want to admit it to myself, but something had shifted. The final straw was the gala planning meeting at Mr. Porter's estate. Mr. Porter, the project's main sponsor, was everything I wasn't. Slick, confident, and filthy rich. He had a way of commanding a room, his voice smooth as the leather seats in his sports cars. At that meeting, Lily was more animated than I'd seen her in weeks. She laughed at all of Porter's jokes, hung on his every word, even touched his arm as she leaned in to whisper something. I told myself it was nothing, just Lily being her usual outgoing self. But deep down, I couldn't ignore the sting. That night, lying in bed next to her, I stared at the ceiling, replaying every suspicious moment over and over in my head. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe it was nothing. But in my gut, I knew. Something was coming, and it wouldn't be good. The next few weeks felt like I was living with a stranger. Lily's excuses became more frequent, her mood swings sharper. She'd snap at me for small things, leaving my coffee mug in the sink, forgetting to pick up the dry cleaning, and then act like nothing happened an hour later. What stood out the most was her newfound interest in her appearance. Lily had always been beautiful, effortlessly so, but now it felt calculated. She started wearing dresses I hadn't seen before, stilettos instead of her usual flats. Her perfume was stronger, her makeup bolder. When I asked about it, she rolled her eyes and said, "I'm just trying something new. Don't you like it?" I did like it. That was the problem. It wasn't for me. I tried to distract myself by throwing all my energy into the museum project. The team was running behind schedule, and I used every delay as an excuse to stay late at the office. But even there, I couldn't escape the gnawing feeling in my chest. I'd catch myself staring at my phone, half hoping, half dreading a call or text from Lily. It wasn't until I came home early one night that I realized just how deep this went. I had been at the office reviewing blueprints when my assistant, Clara, came in and handed me a cup of coffee. "Go home," she said with a smile. "You're no good to us if you burn out." I reluctantly agreed. The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway. Lily's car was there, but the curtains were drawn, and the usual glow of the TV in the living room was missing. I stepped inside quietly, not wanting to disturb her if she was asleep. But she wasn't asleep. I heard her voice before I saw her. Low, hushed tones coming from the study, the one room in the house she never used. "I can't keep doing this," she was saying, her voice clipped and tense. "He's going to figure it out." I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. She was on the phone. I leaned against the wall, straining to hear. I don't care about the money, she hissed, her voice rising. This is about more than that. You promised me. The floor creaked under my foot, and the conversation cut off. A moment later, the door opened, and there she was, phone in hand, her face pale. Oh, she said, her eyes widening slightly. You're home early. Who were you talking to? I asked, keeping my voice steady. No one, she said too quickly, her hand slipping her phone into her pocket. Just Rachel. We were talking about the gala. Her lie was so obvious it almost made me laugh. I wanted to press her, to demand the truth, but something stopped me. Not fear, no, this was different. It was as if my brain had decided in that moment to let her dig her own grave. So I nodded, giving her the benefit of the doubt she didn't deserve. All right, I said, forcing a smile. I just didn't expect you to be awake. She smiled back, but it didn't reach her eyes. I was waiting for you, she said softly, stepping closer. You've been so busy lately. I miss you. I kissed her on the forehead, but my mind was racing. I wasn't sure what was going on, but one thing was clear. Lily was lying. I had no idea how deep the rabbit hole went, but I was about to find out. The next day, I decided to trust my instincts. Something was off and I couldn't let it slide. If Lily wasn't going to tell me the truth, I'd find it myself. My first step was her phone. I hated the idea, it felt wrong, invasive, but I was desperate. That night, while she showered, I slipped into our bedroom and grabbed it from the nightstand. My hands shook as I unlocked it. Thankfully, she hadn't changed her passcode. At first, I didn't see much. Her texts were all standard, conversations with friends, reminders from her hairdresser. But then I noticed a contact saved under Rachel. It was too perfect. The name she'd thrown at me the night before. I opened the thread. There weren't many messages, but the ones that were there hit me like a brick. Rachel, I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Same sweet. Lily? Yes. Make sure everything's ready. Jason can't know. Rachel, you worry too much. He's so buried in work, he'd never notice. Lily, it's not just that. If this goes wrong, I lose everything. My blood went cold. Suite? Tomorrow. And what the hell was Lily so afraid of losing? I heard the water shut off in the bathroom and quickly put the phone back. My heart was racing, but I couldn't stop now. Whatever was going on, I needed more proof. The following day, I told Lily I had a late meeting at the office. She barely looked up from her coffee, just nodded and said, "Don't wait up." It was almost too easy. I left the house but didn't go far. I parked a few blocks away and waited, watching the house like a hawk. It took about an hour, but eventually, the front door opened. Lily stepped out, dressed to the nines in a sleek black dress and heels I'd never seen before. She didn't take her car. Instead, a sleek black sedan pulled up, and she slid into the back seat without hesitation. My heart felt like it might explode, but I forced myself to stay calm. I followed them, keeping a safe distance, through the quiet streets of the city until the car pulled into the driveway of an upscale hotel. I parked across the street, my hands gripping the steering wheel as I watched Lily and a man, tall, broad-shouldered, with an air of smug confidence, step out of the car. He rested his hand on the small of her back as they walked inside. That was when I realized who he was. Mr. Porter, the project sponsor. My project sponsor. My vision blurred with rage. The man who'd invested in my dream, the man I trusted to help me bring my vision to life, was the same man who was now guiding my wife into a luxury hotel. I sat there for a long time, staring at the entrance, trying to process what I'd just seen. My stomach churned. A mix of fury, disgust, and something else. Something darker. I wasn't just going to let this slide. Lily wanted secrets? Fine. Let her think I was clueless. Let her keep digging that hole. Because when I struck back, it wouldn't just hurt. It would ruin her. The next few days were a haze of anger, confusion, and plotting. I wanted to confront Lily and Porter right away, to scream, to demand answers. But I knew that wouldn't be enough. A confrontation would give them the chance to spin their lies, to play the victim, to deny everything. No, I needed more than just my word against theirs. I needed undeniable proof. And I needed revenge that would leave them both crawling out of the wreckage. The first thing I did was enlist the help of someone I trusted. My assistant, Clara. She had a sharp mind and a no-nonsense attitude. Most importantly, she hated Porter. He'd made several inappropriate comments toward her during meetings, and while she brushed them off, I could see the disgust in her eyes. When I told her what was going on, she didn't hesitate. "Tell me what you need," she said. "Proof," I replied. "I need to know exactly how deep this goes." Clara was better at digging than I expected. Within days, she had pulled phone records, receipts, and even social media photos that Lily and Porter had been careful to hide. There were texts between them, plans for their secret meetings, details about gifts Porter had bought for Lily, even mentions of me. "Lily, Jason's still clueless. He thinks I'm planning gala details with the committee." "Porter, good. The longer he's in the dark, the better. We'll make our move once the museum's finished." "Our move? What move?" That phrase stuck in my head, gnawing at me like a parasite. Then Clara handed me the real bombshell. A series of emails between Porter and the museum's board. They discussed reassigning me as the lead architect after the project's completion. The rationale? A conflict of interest due to Jason's personal matters. Personal matters. As if they hadn't orchestrated the whole thing. I stared at the emails, my hands trembling with rage. Porter wasn't just sleeping with my wife. He was trying to destroy my career. And Lily was in on it. That was when my anger crystallized into cold, calculated determination. They wanted to take everything from me? Fine. I take it all back, and make sure they never recovered. I began laying the groundwork. Clara and I set up hidden cameras in my house, one in the study where Lily always took her secret calls and another in the living room. I started recording every interaction, documenting every lie, every betrayal. But that wasn't enough. I wanted their downfall to be public, to be as humiliating and devastating as what they had planned for me. The museum gala was only a month away. It was supposed to be the crowning moment of my career, the day I unveiled my masterpiece to the city. Now, it would be something else entirely. I worked tirelessly, splitting my time between the project and my plan. Late nights became the norm as I refined every detail. This wouldn't just be a confrontation. It would be a spectacle. And when it was over, Lily and Porter wouldn't just lose me. They'd lose everything. The more I planned, the more ruthless I became. It wasn't enough to expose their affair. I wanted to dismantle every piece of their lives the way they had tried to dismantle mine. First, I made sure I had all the proof I needed. The cameras in the house had already captured enough damning footage of Lily's secret phone calls. She whispered about plans to meet Porter, laughed about how Jason wouldn't see it coming, and even gloated about the expensive jewelry Porter had bought her. One night, she practically purred into the phone. "You're the only one who really sees me, you know? Jason's too obsessed with his stupid museum to even notice I'm gone." It was all their hours of recordings, texts, emails. I cataloged everything, filing it away into secure folders. But that was just the beginning. I started researching Porter's business dealings, knowing a man like him had skeletons buried somewhere. Clara came through again, uncovering shady financial transactions and questionable dealings with city officials. Porter's arrogance had made him sloppy, and I intended to use that against him. The museum board, meanwhile, had no idea they were being played. Porter had been charming them for months, painting himself as the project's savior. But Clara found a crucial detail in the budget reports. Porter was inflating costs and funneling money into accounts tied to one of his shell companies. That was the leverage I needed. "Are you sure about this?" Clara asked one night as we pored over the evidence in my office. I looked at her, my jaw tight. "He tried to ruin me, Clara. He doesn't get to walk away from this." She nodded, her eyes hard. "Then let's make sure he doesn't." The next step was setting the stage. The gala was my moment of control, and I intended to use it. I met with the event planners, ensuring that every detail of the evening would play into my plan. From the guest list to the speeches to the positioning of the press, nothing was left to chance. I even made a point to act as though nothing was wrong. At home, I played the devoted husband, smiling at Lily and pretending I was none the wiser. She seemed more confident, more smug, as if she thought she'd won. "Are you excited for the gala?" she asked one evening, her tone casual but laced with something that felt like triumph. "Of course," I replied, forcing a grin. "It's the biggest night of my career." She smirked, leaning in to kiss my cheek. "It'll be unforgettable." She had no idea how right she was. By the time the gala approached, everything was in place. The recordings, the financial evidence, even Porter's crooked dealings. I had it all lined up like dominoes, ready to fall. I wasn't just going to expose them. I was going to burn their lives to the ground. The week leading up to the gala felt like a twisted waiting game. Lily's mood was brighter than ever. She practically floated around the house, humming songs and talking excitedly about the event. "This is going to be such a big night for you," she said over breakfast one morning. Her smile was syrupy sweet, her eyes calculating. "I'm so proud of you, Jason." I forced myself to meet her gaze, masking the fury that boiled underneath. "Thanks, Lily. It means a lot to have you by my side." Her smile widened, and I could see the self-satisfaction behind it. She thought she'd won. But I wasn't just playing along. I was fueling her confidence. Every compliment, every reassuring word, was designed to keep her guard down. I wanted her walking into that gala without the faintest suspicion of what was about to happen. Meanwhile, my nights were spent perfecting the final details. Clara and I reviewed the evidence again and again, making sure it was airtight. The videos of Lily's phone calls, the text messages, and the financial records. All of it was organized into a presentation that would make even the slimiest lawyer squirm. The day before the gala, Clara stopped by my office, her expression a mix of excitement and concern. "Are you ready for this?" she asked, handing me a folder of the finalized evidence. I nodded, though my chest felt tight. "More than ready. They don't get to walk away from this." She hesitated for a moment before placing a hand on my shoulder. "Just don't lose yourself in this, Jason. You're not like them." Her words lingered after she left. For a moment I wondered if she was right. Was I crossing a line? Was I becoming as vindictive and heartless as they were? Then I remembered Lily's whispered lies, Porter's smirk, and the emails plotting my professional downfall. No, this wasn't about stooping to their level. This was about justice. The night of the gala arrived, and the air buzzed with anticipation. The venue was stunning. An elegant ballroom with high ceilings and chandeliers that sparkled like stars. Guests in tuxedos and gowns milled about, sipping champagne and complimenting the museum's design. Lily was radiant in a red dress, her hair swept up in a style that exuded confidence. She clung to my arm as we greeted the attendees, her laugh chiming like bells. "Mr. Porter's over there," she whispered, nodding toward the bar where he was holding court. "He looks happy to see you." I turned and locked eyes with him. His smile was as oily as ever, his presence commanding the room like he owned it. "Let's go say hello," I said, my voice steady. As we approached, Porter's grin widened. He greeted Lily first, his hand lingering on hers a little too long. "You look stunning tonight, my dear," he said smoothly. "Thank you," she replied, her voice dripping with charm. Then he turned to me, offering a handshake. "Jason, my man, this is quite the event. You must be thrilled." I gripped his hand firmly, meeting his gaze. "Thrilled doesn't even begin to cover it." Porter chuckled, oblivious to the double meaning. "Well, enjoy the night. This is your moment." "Oh, I intend to." As the evening wore on, the anticipation built. Lily was busy schmoozing with the guests, and Porter flitted from group to group, basking in the attention. I stayed calm, biding my time, because when the time came, they'd never see it coming. The gala was in full swing, the ballroom filled with laughter and applause as the night unfolded. The crowd buzzed with excitement for the highlight of the evening, the presentation of the museum's final design and the announcement of its future vision. I stood at the edge of the room, champagne glass in hand, watching as Lily charmed her way through the crowd. She had perfected the role of the supportive wife, laughing at jokes, complimenting everyone's outfits, and gushing about how proud she was of me. Mr. Porter, ever the showman, took center stage, his voice cutting through the chatter like a knife. "Ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention, please?" The room quieted, all eyes turning to him. He smiled, basking in the spotlight. "Tonight, we celebrate not just a museum but a masterpiece, a symbol of innovation, creativity, and dedication." He gestured toward me. "And none of this would be possible without the vision and hard work of our lead architect, Jason." A wave of applause erupted, and Lily gave me a little shove toward the stage. "Go on," she whispered, her smile wide and glowing with fake pride. I walked up, shaking Porter's hand as the crowd clapped. "Thank you, Mr. Porter," I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. "And thank you all for being here tonight to celebrate what we've accomplished." I looked out at the sea of faces, colleagues, board members, press. Lily stood near the front, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. Porter lingered off to the side, his smug grin firmly in place. "Perfect. This project has been a labor of love," I began. "It's a reflection of not just my passion, but the support and trust of everyone involved. I'm incredibly grateful to my wife, Lily, for standing by me every step of the way." The crowd murmured their approval, a few people glancing at her with admiration. Lily smiled and gave a small wave, eating it up. "But tonight isn't just about celebrating what we've built," I continued. "It's about honesty, integrity, and the people we choose to trust." I paused, letting the words hang in the air. Lily's smile faltered, and Porter's brow furrowed slightly. "And with that in mind," I said, my voice sharper now, "I'd like to share a behind-the-scenes look at what it really took to bring this project to life." The lights dimmed, and the screen behind me flickered to life. At first, the audience saw images of the blueprints and construction, accompanied by soft, uplifting music. Then the tone shifted. The next clip was a recording from the hidden camera in our study. Lily's voice echoed through the room. "You're the only one who really sees me. Jason's too obsessed with his stupid museum to even notice I'm gone." The room fell deathly silent. On screen, Lily sat on the couch, phone in hand, whispering conspiratorially, "I can't keep doing this. He's going to figure it out." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "Is that Lily?" I kept my gaze steady, watching as Lily's face drained of color. She turned to me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. The video continued, shifting to a series of texts displayed on the screen. "Porter, we'll make our move once the museum's finished. Lily, Jason doesn't suspect a thing. He's too busy working to notice us." The crowd's murmurs grew louder, outrage and disbelief spreading like wildfire. But the piece de resistance came next. Clara's uncovered financial records and emails. The documents exposed Porter's embezzlement, his plans to siphon off funds, and his manipulation of the museum board. When the lights came back on, the room was in chaos. "What the hell is this?" someone shouted. Porter's face was a mask of rage and panic. "Jason, we need to talk about this privately." "No." I cut him off, my voice booming. "You wanted a spotlight, Porter. Here it is." I turned to Lily, who was frozen in place, tears streaming down her face. "And you?" I said, my voice dripping with venom. "You played your part beautifully, didn't you? The devoted wife, the supportive partner." "Jason," she whispered, reaching for me. "I can explain." "Save it," I snapped, stepping back. "You betrayed me. You betrayed us. And now everyone knows who you really are." The crowd was buzzing with shock and whispers. Phones were out, recording everything. It was over for them. And I wasn't done yet. The room erupted into chaos as the implications of the presentation sank in. Conversations buzzed in frantic whispers, and eyes darted between Lily, Porter, and me. Phones captured every second, broadcasting their shame to the world. Lily stood frozen, her face pale as the blood drained from it. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked around, desperate for an ally, for someone to defend her. She even glanced at Porter, but his mask of confidence had shattered. Porter was a different story. His panic was immediate. He rushed toward me, grabbing my arm in a vice-like grip. "Jason, this is insane," he hissed. "Do you realize what you've done? You've ruined everything." I wrenched my arm free and leveled him with a cold glare.
No, Porter.
"You ruined everything the moment you decided to stab me in the back." He stepped closer, lowering his voice to a growl. "You think this will end me? I'll fix this. You're nothing without me, Jason. Remember that. Fix this," I said, my voice dripping with mockery. "Good luck explaining the embezzlement records to the authorities. Oh, and you might want to check your email." Clara sent everything to the museum board before the gala even started. His face fell, and for a moment, I thought he might actually hit me. Instead, he turned and stormed out, shoving past guests who were already recording him. I let out a slow breath and turned my attention to Lily. She was trembling now, tears streaking her makeup, her perfect facade in ruins. "Jason," she pleaded, stepping toward me. "You have to believe me. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but we can fix this." I stared at her, my chest tight with anger, sadness, and a bitterness I couldn't shake. "A mistake," I said, my voice sharp. "You call months of lies, betrayal, and planning to destroy my career a mistake?" She reached for my hand, desperation in her eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you. I was scared, Jason. Scared of losing everything." "You should have been scared of losing me," I snapped, pulling my hand away. She broke down, her shoulders shaking as sobs racked her body. The guests were still watching, their shock and judgment palpable. But I didn't care. "This was your choice, Lily," I said, my voice cold. "You wanted a life with Porter to sell me out for money and power. Well, congratulations, you've got it. But you'll have to enjoy it without me." "Jason, please," she whispered, sinking to her knees as the weight of the moment crushed her. I didn't stay to watch her crumble. I turned and walked out of the ballroom, leaving the noise, the chaos, and her betrayal behind. As I stepped into the cool night air, I felt an overwhelming mixture of relief and emptiness. The revenge had been satisfying, yes, but it came at a cost. The woman I thought I'd spend my life with had turned out to be a stranger. And yet, I wasn't the one broken. I was free. And for the first time in a long time, I had clarity. This wasn't the end of me. It was the beginning. I didn't go home that night. Couldn't. The house, the memories, it all felt tainted. Instead, I checked into a quiet hotel on the outskirts of town and sat in silence, staring at the blank walls. The adrenaline from the gala had worn off, leaving a hollow ache in its place. The truth was, while exposing Lily and Porter had been satisfying, it didn't erase the pain. It didn't fix the betrayal or the emptiness that followed. I scrolled through my phone, already flooded with messages. Some were from guests at the gala, mostly stunned reactions or half-hearted attempts to check on me. A few were from friends and colleagues, offering support. And then there were the messages from Lily. "Jason, please call me. We need to talk. I'm so sorry. Please, let me explain. I'm begging you. Don't throw us away." I ignored them all. The next morning, I met Clara at a small cafe downtown. She looked like she hadn't slept, but her expression was firm. "Well," she said, sliding a coffee across the table to me. "You did it. They're finished." I nodded, though the victory felt hollow. "What's the fallout so far?" She pulled out her tablet and scrolled through the news. "The museum board called an emergency meeting this morning. Porter's out, officially fired. They're already talking about pressing charges for the embezzlement." "Good," I said, my voice flat. "And Lily?" Clara hesitated, studying my face. "What about her?" I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted the answer. "She's not taking it well," Clara said carefully. "She's already been the subject of a dozen viral videos from last night. Everyone's talking about her and Porter." I took a sip of coffee, letting the bitterness settle on my tongue. I should have felt triumphant, but all I felt was tired. "What now?" Clara asked, leaning forward. I shook my head. "I don't know. The house feels like a graveyard. I can't stay there. And work?" I trailed off, unsure of what to say. "You'll figure it out," Clara said firmly. "You're stronger than this, Jason. Don't let them define you." Her words stayed with me as I left the cafe. I spent the rest of the day walking through the city, trying to make sense of what was left of my life. Everywhere I went, I felt the weight of stares and whispers. The story of the gala had spread like wildfire, and I was the center of it all. That evening, I drove back to the house, dreading what I might find. The driveway was empty, and the lights were off, but as I stepped inside, I was met with silence. Lily's things were gone. The closet, once filled with her dresses and shoes, was now half empty. The vanity was cleared, her perfume bottles and jewelry nowhere to be seen. A note lay on the kitchen counter, written in her delicate handwriting. "Jason, I'm sorry for everything. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I hope one day you can understand why I did what I did. I'm leaving for a while. Take care of yourself. Lily." I crumpled the note in my hand and threw it into the trash. She thought she could walk away from this with a goodbye note? After everything she'd done? Fine. Let her run. I didn't need her. Not anymore. As I stood in the quiet house, a strange sense of clarity washed over me. I had lost my wife, my trust, and my illusion of a perfect life. But I hadn't lost myself, and that was enough to start over. The days after Lily's departure were surreal. The house was quieter than it had ever been, the silence a reminder of what was gone. Not just her presence, but the life I thought we had built together. I went through the motions of packing up her remaining belongings. Each item I touched felt like a betrayal. Clothes I'd bought her, gifts she'd claimed to cherish. They all ended up in boxes, shoved into the corner of the garage. At first, I avoided my work. The museum board had reached out, apologizing profusely for Porter's actions and offering me a formal apology. They wanted me to continue as the lead architect, but I needed time. Instead, I focused on the little things, cooking for myself, going on long walks, and reestablishing routines. For years, I'd lived for someone else's happiness, putting my dreams second to maintain a picture-perfect marriage. Now, for the first time, I had the space to think about what I wanted. Clara checked in often. She brought updates on the fallout from the gala. "Porter's being investigated," she said during one visit, sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop. "They've already frozen his accounts, and his lawyer quit yesterday." I nodded, feeling a grim sense of satisfaction. "Good. He deserves it." "And Lily?" she asked cautiously. I shrugged. "She's gone, probably hiding out somewhere until the storm dies down." "She's a coward," Clara said bluntly, "running away instead of facing the consequences." I couldn't argue with that. As the weeks passed, I began to reconnect with old friends I hadn't seen in years. They rallied around me, offering support, reminding me of who I was before Lily had taken over my life. It was refreshing, like waking up after a long, restless sleep. One evening, I found myself sitting on the back porch, watching the sunset. The colors streaked across the sky, vibrant and alive. It reminded me of why I became an architect in the first place, to create things that inspired, that left a mark on the world. I realized then that I couldn't let this betrayal define me. Lily and Porter had tried to destroy me, but they'd failed. It was time to take back control. The next morning, I called the museum board. "I'll finish the project," I told them, "but under one condition: total creative freedom."
No interference, no micromanaging.
They agreed without hesitation. The work became my therapy. I poured every ounce of my pain, anger, and determination into the museum. The building wasn't just a structure anymore. It was a symbol of resilience, a testament to surviving the storm. With every beam placed, every design finalized, I felt a piece of myself returning. One night, as I was sketching new details for the final wing, Clara called. "You should come out," she said. "A few of us are at the wine bar on Main." "I don't know," I began, but she cut me off. You need this, Jason. You've spent enough time alone. Come on. It's just a drink. Reluctantly, I agreed. The bar was lively but cozy, filled with laughter and conversation. Clara waved me over to a table where a few familiar faces greeted me warmly. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again. Not the architect, not the betrayed husband, just Jason. As the night went on, I caught myself smiling, laughing at jokes, feeling lighter than I had in a long time. It wasn't a perfect moment, but it was a step forward. And for the first time, I began to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could rebuild my life. Not for Lily, not for anyone else, but for me. Life was beginning to settle into a new rhythm. The museum project became my anchor, a constant reminder of what I was capable of. I threw myself into every detail, refining the design and overseeing the construction with a renewed sense of purpose. But the universe, it seemed, wasn't done surprising me. One afternoon, while reviewing some final touches on the museum's atrium, my assistant Clara walked in with a peculiar look on her face. "You've got a visitor," she said, her tone guarded. "A visitor?" I frowned. "Who?" "It's Lily." My stomach twisted. I hadn't seen or spoken to her since the night of the gala. Part of me wanted to tell Clara to send her away, but curiosity, and maybe a touch of unresolved anger, got the better of me. I found her waiting in the lobby, looking a shadow of her former self. Her once pristine appearance was replaced with dark circles under her eyes, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. "Jason," she said softly when she saw me. I crossed my arms, keeping my expression neutral. "What do you want, Lily?" She hesitated, wringing her hands. I need to talk to you. Please." "About what?" I asked coldly. "Haven't you said enough?" Her eyes welled up with tears, but I didn't flinch. She wasn't going to manipulate me with her emotions again. "I made a mistake," she said, her voice trembling. "A terrible mistake. I thought I was chasing something better, but all I did was destroy everything good in my life." I stayed silent, letting her words hang in the air. "Porter," she continued, her voice cracking. "He's gone. Disappeared the moment everything fell apart. I have nothing left, Jason. No one." It was a strange moment, standing there as the woman who had betrayed me bared her soul. A year ago, I might have softened, might have let her back in. But now, "I'm sorry you're feeling the consequences of your actions, Lily," I said, my tone cutting. "But I'm not your safety net. You made your choice." "Please, Jason," she begged, stepping closer. "I know I don't deserve it, but I want another chance. I want to fix things. I'll do whatever it takes." I took a step back, shaking my head. "Fix what, Lily? The marriage you threw away? The trust you shattered? You don't want me, you want stability. And I'm not giving you that." Tears streamed down her face as she looked at me, her expression a mix of desperation and regret. "I still love you," she whispered. The words should have meant something, but they didn't. "Not anymore." "No, Lily," I said firmly. "You loved what I could give you. That's not the same." She broke down, sobbing quietly as I stood there, unmoving. It was strange watching her crumble. I felt no satisfaction, no triumph. Just a deep, quiet sense of closure. "I think you should go," I said finally, my voice steady. "There's nothing left for you here." She nodded, wiping her eyes as she turned toward the door. "Goodbye, Jason," she whispered before walking out of my life for good. I stood there for a long moment, letting the weight of the encounter settle. When I finally returned to my office, Clara was waiting. "Everything okay?" she asked, her tone cautious. "It is now," I said with a faint smile. For the first time since the betrayal, I felt free. Lily's chapter in my life was closed, and I wasn't looking back. The future was mine to shape, and I intended to do just that. After Lily's visit, I felt an unexpected sense of clarity. For the first time, the emotional weight of her betrayal seemed to lift. She had come to me broken, hoping to rebuild what she destroyed. But I didn't want her back. That night, I sat on the couch with a glass of bourbon, staring at the museum blueprints. The building was more than a project now. It was a symbol of everything I'd endured and overcome. By morning, I made a decision. I wouldn't just finish the museum. I'd make it my legacy. I reached out to Clara and the board, proposing a new wing, a personal tribute to resilience, innovation, and the beauty of starting over. They loved the idea. For the first time in years, I felt excited about the future. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about rebuilding. Weeks later, Clara invited me to a gallery opening downtown. I almost said no, but she insisted I needed a break. "Consider it inspiration," she said. The gallery was buzzing with life, filled with people admiring modern art. I wandered through the exhibits, letting the creativity around me spark new ideas. That's when I met her, Emily, an artist whose vibrant, chaotic paintings seemed to mirror the chaos of my own journey. We struck up a conversation about her work, her passion for creating something beautiful out of destruction. "You can't rebuild without a little chaos," she said, smiling. Her words stayed with me. For the first time in a long while, I felt a spark. Not of love, not yet, but of possibility. Emily and I kept in touch after the gallery. Our conversations felt easy, unforced, and refreshing. She didn't know about Lily, Porter, or the mess I had crawled out of, and for now I liked it that way. Instead, we talked about her art, my designs, and the places where our creativity overlapped. She had a way of looking at the world that reminded me of what I'd forgotten. Life wasn't just about surviving. It was about creating, growing, and finding joy again. Meanwhile, the museum neared completion. The new wing was coming together beautifully, its sleek design representing resilience in every line. It was a small triumph, but one that filled me with pride. With every passing day, I felt lighter. Lily and Porter were no longer shadows in my mind. I was finally moving forward. The museum's grand opening was a celebration, but this time, the focus wasn't on me. It was on the work. As people wandered through the halls, admiring the exhibits and the architecture, I stayed in the background, soaking it all in. Emily arrived late, her eyes lighting up as she took in the design. "It's stunning," she said, standing beside me. "Thanks," I replied, a small smile tugging at my lips. As the night went on, I realized I didn't feel the need to prove anything anymore. Not to Lily, not to Porter, not even to myself. This was my fresh start, a life rebuilt on my own terms. And for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful for whatever came next.